And what we think is being underappreciated is the possibility that the chips actually are no longer purely cyclical stories. And we're seeing this across the tech stack in that actually hardware is becoming the new software in this new tech cycle. In previous tech cycles, the big wealth creation has always occurred in that software layer, in those applications, those mobile apps. But actually what we're seeing is superior revenue growth as well as margin expansion come from those infrastructure players, come from the likes of the NVIDIAs, the Broadcoms.
Squawk, NVIDIA reportedly working on a new chip for China that's more powerful than the H20 chip it's already allowed to sell there. Reuters reporting that NVIDIA's new chip is based on its latest Blackwell architecture. Its design will likely deliver half the computing power contained in the company's more sophisticated B300 card. Now, sources telling Reuters the company wants to deliver samples to China for testing as early as next month. I imagine they have to send samples to the White House as well if they're going to be sending this stuff that direction.
As they should in a state-run. We're going to talk to Scott Besson about this. He should have some. There are one-off situations. That's the problem I have. Like certain metals that we need, certain pharmaceutical constituents that we need. How do you do that? How do you make sure that next time that there's a problem, we have access to that? Chips. Is there a place for industrial policy?
We look at how quickly we get shut down by the rare earth metals.
That's what I mean.
China, right? How do you?
But that doesn't explain the NVIDIA and AMD. I don't know what you'd call that. It almost, some people have referred to it almost as a shakedown. You give us, some revenue sharing, and you can sell these chips that formerly there was some concern about whether China should have access to these advanced chips. And now it seems like if there's money involved, suddenly it's okay.
Well, Joe, again, on the H20s, I think H20s are now pretty far down the NVIDIA stack. So
it could be much more advanced. Yeah.
It's not a national security risk. And what we would like, and what the industry has made a very strong case for, is for China, for the rest of the world, including the global South, to develop the U.S. standard as the global standard. I remember when Japan led the world in cell phone technology, and that it didn't become a global standard. And for a long time, the Japanese technology got very isolated. The last thing we want is a Huawei Belt and Road, where Huawei is selling chips to the rest of the world and the U.S. technology is excluded.
Mr. Secretary, I have a couple of questions. One is there's a new report out. It relates to NVIDIA about a new chip they're trying to build called the B30A, which apparently is more sophisticated than the H20, which they want to sell to China. Have they come to you about that chip?
That would be, Andrew, that'd be through Commerce. I haven't seen that yet. I was watching you earlier this morning, so I'm sure we'll be discussing it, and it will require a license to do that.
Markets, let's focus on particular stocks now. NVIDIA, starting with NVIDIA, they are going to be reporting their earnings coming on Wednesday. I'm just wondering if you buy before that report comes out. Stuart will tell you that can be a dangerous thing to do.
I've been a big bull on NVIDIA. We've got earnings next week. I could not be more excited for this earnings report, David. I think we're going to see 50% revenue growth, over $45 billion in the quarter. Ooh. This is a big deal. Their Blackwell AI chip is going to drive growth. It's going to continue to drive revenue. I think if you're looking to put money to work, you still buy the stock. 60% of the time, NVIDIA trades higher after earnings. The median return is about 4.5%. So the data is on our side that the stock should do well after earnings.
All right.
Let me come back to something quickly that you I think at least the Treasury Secretary indicated you should get or should have something to say about, and that's this story that NVIDIA is looking to sell a new chip, again less powered obviously than what they sell here, but not the H20, a different type of chip to the Chinese. He said on Squawk Box earlier that as the Treasury Secretary that that be through Commerce. So I'm curious what your view is on this idea they're working on this new AI chip for China.
Well, look, NVIDIA is a $4 trillion company for a reason, because Jensen has always tried to sell more things. I mean, the guy is fantastic. So the fact that he comes up and says, I have an H20 chip, I'm trying to sell those, but those are like 4 generations back. I'd like to have a newer one that I can sell to China. Of course he would like to sell a new chip to China. And, you know, I'm sure he's pitching the president all the time. I've listened to him pitch the president. And the president listens to our great technology companies, and he'll decide how he wants to play it. But the fact that Jensen is pitching a new chip shouldn't surprise anybody. Of course he is.
He's good at it too, isn't he?
Oh, baby, he is great. You can't be worth $4 trillion and not be amazing.
So let's start with NVIDIA, reportedly working on a new AI chip for China that will outperform the H2O. Current restrictions prevent them from sending their top-of-the-line Blackwell chips. And Mike Lee, come on and back in. Your stock picks, does that report strengthen your bull case?
Yeah, and what's wild, it's the same thing like I was just talking about with CoreWeave, is that the market is predicting that 15 months from now to 18 months from now, the growth rates for all of these artificial intelligence stocks is just going to collapse. And that all this 50, 75% year-over-year growth goes to like 15 or 10%. And it's just not a reality. So NVIDIA is going to have a blowout quarter. The expectations are too low. And not only are they going to beat this quarter, they're going to raise estimates substantially now that they can do business in China, now that they're going to have a separate product line to sell there. So one thing to consider with them, for every chip they sell, they have demand for 15. And, you know, next year and the year after, they're going to come out with something 5 to 10 times as fast that's on the market right now. So we are living in unprecedented times.
We are indeed. All right,
I hope you're all doing well today. At the time I'm recording, the market is lower across the board as market participants brace for Powell's comments this Friday at Jackson Hole. I'm not aware of any negative NVIDIA-specific news, and so I wouldn't worry too much about today's red action in NVIDIA. It appears to be a market-wide red day. Remember to stay calm and maintain a long-term perspective. Now on to NVIDIA. We have multiple pieces of NVIDIA news to cover today. First, it's being reported that NVIDIA is considering raising the price of the H20 in China by 18% in response to the U.S. government taking 15% of their China revenue. As I've said previously, I don't like the government taking revenue from companies without providing anything in return, as that is fundamentally not capitalism, and we have taxes for a reason. That said, I do understand why NVIDIA is willing to do this, as it's better than not being able to sell in China at all. This report suggests that NVIDIA is considering passing the increased cost along to members of the AI server supply chain. In other news, Reuters is reporting that NVIDIA is developing a new chip for China built on the Blackwell architecture, dubbed the B30A, and that samples may be delivered to Chinese clients as soon as September. This seems to track with what the Financial Times reported earlier this summer about a new China chip arriving in China as early as September of this year. I bring this up because the Financial Times have been fantastic recently when it comes to accurately reporting on NVIDIA rumors before the information is officially made public. And so this is worth bearing in mind. Also, the president recently said he would consider allowing a modified Blackwell chip into China, and he indicated that he would likely be speaking with Jensen about that in the near future. And so all of that to say that this story may very well be accurate, and it's worth paying attention to. Now, I want to mention something I talked about in yesterday's second video, in case you missed it, because this topic has been getting a lot of attention by the financial press recently. And that is the comment made by OpenAI's Sam Altman about being in an AI bubble. Concerns of an AI bubble were revived after it was reported that Sam Altman said, quote, "Are we in a phase where investors as a whole are overexcited about AI?" My opinion is yes. Is AI the most important thing to happen in a very long time? My opinion is also yes. Now, this is an interesting one for multiple reasons. First, I don't know what Sam's motive is in saying this. Is he trying to dissuade firms from investing in potential competitors to OpenAI? I don't know. It's also very strange because just recently Sam posted on X talking about the strong demand OpenAI is seeing and saying that the company will roughly double its compute fleet over the next 5 months. Meaning OpenAI is seeing very strong demand and desperately needs more infrastructure, which is great for NVIDIA, by the way. But this is a very strange dilemma wherein he's reported as having said there's a bubble, but also saying that OpenAI is going to continue to spend billions on building out AI infrastructure. This begs the question, will there eventually be an overbuild of AI infrastructure? My honest opinion is yes. I think there will eventually be an overbuild of capacity. At the same time, I think we're at least 3 to 5 years away from something like that happening. This is not the same as the dot-com bubble, not at all. The largest spenders in this AI revolution are extremely well capitalized with the deepest corporate balance sheets on the planet. Additionally, most of these companies are not investing in AI infrastructure aimlessly in the hopes of eventually finding a use for it. Rather, they already have multiple use cases for it and are investing heavily in an attempt to meet very strong demand. Consider Microsoft and Amazon, for example. They told us this earnings season that they have hundreds of billions of dollars in backlog that they have to deliver to their clients. This means they are already seeing a direct ROI on their AI investments from their paying customers, and demand from their paying customers is so strong that they're struggling to meet that demand. Additionally, consider Alphabet. The company has many use cases for AI infrastructure as they are experiencing growing demand for Gemini, VO3, and all of Google's other AI tools and apps. There are actually many of them, which most people are not aware of. Anyway, Alphabet is seeing growing AI demand, and they are increasing CapEx appropriately. And of course, we can all understand why Meta is investing in AI infrastructure, as we can see how AI directly benefits the company's social platforms and advertising business. So AI demand is extremely strong. It continues to grow based on what we've heard from all of the hyperscalers this earnings season. Enterprises are really just starting to implement AI. Many countries around the world are really just starting to implement AI as well. And we have rising levels of mass public adoption. Keep in mind, another reason this is unlike the dot-com bubble is that the internet is already here, meaning use case development and public adoption are going to happen much faster than they did in the early days of the internet. We don't have to wait 10 or 20 years. Rather, it's already happening at this very moment. So, do I think we're in some form of bubble? Perhaps in the early stages of one. But I think we're likely at least 3 to 5 years away from an overbuild of capacity. The largest spenders are extremely well capitalized by means of their own earnings, which was not the case in the dot-com era. New use cases are going to be developed very quickly compared to the early days of the internet, and adoption is going to happen much faster than it did during the early days of the internet. I continue to be bullish on NVIDIA long-term, and I seriously think we are still in the early days of AI. I genuinely think that NVIDIA still has a lot of runway ahead of it. One thing that I really appreciate about NVIDIA is that they give great visibility of what to expect even 3 years ahead of time. The reason they do this is because there's a lot of infrastructure that has to be put in place ahead of each new generation of product from NVIDIA. We have a clear data center product roadmap extending into 2028 with a new generation product release each year. Blackwell Ultra has launched and should ramp substantially in September. In 2026, we have Vera Rubin, with the Vera CPU being NVIDIA's first custom CPU, and NVIDIA recently said that Rubin is on track. Then in 2027, we have Rubin Ultra, with a single Kyber rack being able to hold 576 Rubin GPU dies, for X the number of GPU dies in the current NVL72 systems. And then we have NVIDIA's Feynman after that in 2028. We have a clear data center product roadmap extending into 2028, and Jensen believes the world's computing CapEx will reach $1 trillion annually by 2030, meaning he's expecting an expanding total addressable market underpinning all of this. I continue to be bullish on the long-term future of NVIDIA, and I seriously think this company has a lot of runway ahead of it. At least that's my view of the situation. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.